The Land Use Committee got their first glimpse as to what the next possible marijuana shop will look like and how it will affect the West Newton community. Here's a highlight of the presentation from the recent meeting.
From a procedural standpoint, Ascend has been working with city officials on the proposed facility since March, when we presented to the Mayor's Host Community Agreement Advisory Group. Ascend was selected to receive an HCA, as the agreements are called, which was executed with the city in July. Next slide, please. The site is situated at the intersection of Cross Street and Washington Street. It's in a Business 2 district, which permits marijuana establishments by special permit, and the site contains 25,036 square feet. Next slide. The intent is to renovate the existing building, former home of Beacon Hill Athletic Club. Next slide. The site meets the requirements set forth in section 6.10.3 of the zoning ordinances. It is 0.9 miles away from Garden Remedies at 697 Washington Street, which is a greater buffer than the 1/2 mile as specified in the ordinance. The site is part of an established commercial district, easily accessible by car and strategically situated to serve West Newton without being right in the heart of the village. In its existing configuration, which is a little hard to see, this parking lot contains 32 parking spaces. The number of parking stalls has been maximized, and the parking lot contains only asphalt. The curb cut to enter the site is on Washington Street, and the Cross Street curb cut is exit only. In this rendering, you'll see that the proposed configuration also reserves the Washington Street curb cut for enter only, and Cross Street will be exit only. Matt Skelly looked long and hard at a variety of possible circulation configurations prior to determining that, in his opinion, this layout with 2 curb cuts is the safest option for drivers. Matt's traffic assessment was peer-reviewed by the BSC group for the city, as well as by members of the city's transportation division. In its memorandum dated October 11th, the Planning Department notes that the circulation has been reviewed by the Department of Transportation, who found the design to be the best alternative for egress and ingress. Allowing 2-directional traffic at the Washington Street driveway would create additional conflicts for cars turning onto Washington Street, given the proximity to Cross Street and adjacent driveways. We met with Cross Street residents on a variety of occasions to discuss circulation as well as landscaping in the parking lot. Ms. Cabral met with a group of neighbors on May 30th, and our team met with neighbors on July 10th and July 30th to discuss the proposed site layout. We understand that the neighbors are concerned with the curb cut on Cross Street, but we can't disregard the opinions of all the traffic and safety professionals with whom we've been consulting. We did make it clear to the neighbors that we would abide by the city's recommendation on this point at the end of the day. And I should also note that we held a broader community outreach on July 18th as required by the Cannabis Control Commission. From an aesthetic perspective, our revised layout plan reconfigures the existing parking in order to allow for substantial landscape screening around the perimeter of the parking lot. There are now 27 parking spaces on site, which is still more than that required by the zoning ordinance. We propose a variety of ornamental trees and low shrubbery around the parking lot's perimeter, as well as a 4-foot-high perimeter ornamental fence. The objective is to comply fully with the screening requirements as set forth in section 5.1.9. A privacy fence will run along the rear of the site in accordance with the request of the abutter to the north. That will be white vinyl. To discourage customers from making a right-hand turn when they leave from onto Cross Street, that curb cut has been angled, as you can see, to facilitate only left-hand turns. The entrance to the building will be from Washington Street, and there will be a separate exit directly into the parking lot, which you'll see better on the next slide. In order to comply with Newton's ordinance, a marijuana establishment must not exceed 5,000 square feet. Ascend is only leasing the portion of the building which is shown in the darker salmon on this slide, 4,985 square feet. The remainder of the building will remain vacant, and any future use of same would require an amendment to the special permit that we're seeking. Next slide, please. Customers will enter the site via Washington Street and exit by a separate door right into the parking lot. This will be an adult-use only facility, not a medical facility. Therefore, in accordance with state regulations, only patrons who are 21 and over with a validly issued state ID will be permitted to enter. The facility will feature 6 point-of-sale stations and additional areas where customers who have placed their orders online may pick up orders.
When reviewing the request, the council should consider whether the site is in an appropriate location, whether the neighborhood will be adversely affected, there will be nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved, whether literal compliance is impracticable due to the nature of the use, size, width, depth, shape, or grade of the lot, or that such exceptions would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. There are additional criteria when considering the marijuana retailer. They pertain to site design, trash areas, impact on abutters, location of the proposed retailer, and traffic. Additional criteria include the design of the building to be compatible with others in the area, accessibility, access to regional roadways and public transportation, readily monitored by law enforcement and other code enforcement personnel, and whether hours of operation will have no significant adverse impact on nearby uses. The city engaged a third-party firm to conduct a peer review of the petitioner's traffic review letter submitted with their application. They identified several areas that need further study and information, and the petitioner expects to have those responses by October 18th. Lastly, outstanding items include responses to the peer review, location of the ADA stalls in the crosswalk. The stalls are in compliance, however, the crosswalk is close to the site and the entrance to the site. Lighting, we've already discussed that, and also withdrawal of the unnecessary relief.
So I just want to put a couple more comments in, because I made just that first comment about appointment only. I'm just glad to hear that that's something that is potentially acceptable, especially in the early stages. I think that's very important to address some of the concerns that have been raised and to really see how it works. I do think that I'd like to have a more full discussion about the layout. That's a number of different issues have been raised about that. The community has raised their plan, which has, I think, some advantages. The other point that's been made is about that other access if the building were to have that part demolished. And then the one other piece of this is it was mentioned by a number of speakers that before Beacon Hill Athletic started using the cross street, that they weren't using that cross street exit and they were using Washington Street for in and out. So I wonder how that worked, whether there was do we have any history on that as far as whether they changed using that because it wasn't working or whether it worked just fine. And then just finally, I want to thank everyone for being respectful of each other and the time, and I do apologize that we kind of truncated your presentation, but I think that you ended up getting, hopefully, the points out. I also just want the public to understand, and this was briefly mentioned by Councilor Cody, the way that marijuana establishments currently go is they go before the mayor and the mayor's administration first to get a host community agreement. That sometimes can take months, and it's only when after that has been approved that the city council gets the petition, and this is our first opportunity to get it. So even though this might seem like it's been going on a long time to some of you who might have been in conversations with the petitioner, certainly it seems like it's been going on for a long time. I'm sure for the petitioner who's been dealing with the city, this is our first crack at it, so that's why we're kind of getting up to speed on it, and this is really when we're going to be trying to start sorting out these issues.